Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome back to my channel, the only Lauren channel. And yes, it's your official board certified minister of California, Lauren. That's also the professor. Yes, true story. And today's lecture is our series, Physics Friday. Rocket science, also better known as aerospace engineering. Now, I'm super excited about this topic. Like, I've never looked into aerospace engineering before, rocket science. I've never looked into it before. But, like, I ran across these videos on YouTube and then I did some research. And so I wanted to drop some knowledge with you so you can understand some rocket science and we can learn together. And what I thought was so interesting about rocket science in general is it reminded me of trying to get famous, like the same processes. So that's kind of how I was able to pick up like super quick, you know what I'm saying? Because like sometimes I make jumps and associations in which the average person wouldn't make. So a lot of people are not gonna think of rocket science the same as getting famous. So, and that's all I just do basically to solve the problem. And sometimes I just raw dog it when I want to show how smart I am. So just learn the information firsthand as is. Depends. It depends. So to start, we all know rockets. No, the rockets, Houston Rockets. As a vehicle that launches into space. That vehicle is aerodynamic, which means is usually able to withstand all the conditions of flying in the sky and leaving Earth's orbit. You know what aerodynamics are, so, well, at least you're familiar with, you know, you gotta be lean in order to get lean up in this piece. So, aerospace engineering, rocket science, uses fluid dynamics, aerodynamics, material science, structural analysis, orbital mechanics, etc. Quite a bit of a lot. Basically to ensure the rocket meets its maker. Meet your maker. You know, going up into the sky, you know, meeting your maker. Okay, no? It's a failed joke? Okay. But wait, because the maker is down on Earth anyway, so it's going reverse meet your maker. But obviously to launch into space safely. So I thought this was interesting because even though I'm not familiar with, or I am familiar with material science and thermodynamics and orbital mechanics, I wasn't necessarily familiar with fluid dynamics. Like, I knew nothing about fluid dynamics, except that it's incredibly hard because fluids are simply unpredictable. And if I'm not mistaken, I think water is like the hardest to measure because it's not a chemical property that's like a chemical. It's like water. Water is unlike anything in the universe. It's different. Yeah, I'm different. Pull up to the scene with my ceiling missing. Pull up to the scene with my ceiling missing. So basically a rocket is a payload machine that requires fuel to leave the atmosphere. Rocket man, rocket on I think it's gonna be a long time. So the same amount of fuel is the same amount of energy that is required to leave Earth's orbit. So, which happens to be the same weight as the rocket. So it has to shed weight as it leaves Earth's orbit. Basically, you need the same amount of fuel to get you off the ground as the same amount of fuel that you use. How can you do that? You're gonna have to leave something behind. It's what Jesus said, get rid of the old you, turn into the new you. If you wanna be the best, you gotta get rid of the rest. So the craft must be built of certain materials and be built in a certain shape so that there isn't any lag, air lag, resistance, wind resistance, and that there is no burn on the vehicle as it's leaving Earth's orbit. So basically, you know, you don't want it to burn from going so fast as it's leaving, you know, you want it to make sure that it's protected. So that's just me. That's what I'm saying. I'm built different too, not your average typical bear. So the rocket drops weight as it leaves Earth's orbit, and it's also dropping engine fuel too as well. Like I said before, you gotta leave the hose behind if you're trying to be a star. You feel me? Have you ever been with a star? Everywhere you go, everybody knows ya. It has to fly at a tilt to work with the gravity of Earth, because by the time it would make it up to the atmosphere, before it would even make it to the atmosphere, it would actually run out of fuel because gravity is such a downward pull. And once in orbit, usually geosynchronous, synchronistic, which means it follows one of Earth's landmass, so that it's always synced with that landmass, meaning it never changes position. You see it at the same spot, doesn't appear to move. Kind of like the moon. Every time we see the moon or the faces of the moon, it's really in the same spot. So for every rotation, every rotation, there's a rotation to the same side. So by the time we get to the dark of the moon, it's the booty moon. It's the back of the moon, and we don't see it, but it's there. But only that same face we see all the time. That is why the dark side of the moon is so mysterious. Mysterious as the dark side of the moon. Be a man or a moon, be a moon. Man, moon, moon, human, wave, particle, it's all the same. So once in orbit, it sends information back to Earth. That's usually with all rockets that's carrying anything. Now I'm gonna take a look into the word satellite for a minute, because it needs to be done. I talked about this in my moon video. A satellite is a follower or an attendant of a superior person, a bodyguard, a courtier, a cupbearer, wink, aquarius. And the fluid mechanics allow for the jet propulsion to go into space, all those chemicals mixing up with each other inside of the jet engines, going boo 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 boo, exploding gases. So like a fart, really, but a useful fart. So it pushes it out and propels you this way. And it's basically you wanting to beat gravity, which is extremely hard to do. I know I said that before, but that's what it is, because I was speaking ahead of my time. So tell me what you think of rocket science. Was it as hard as you thought it was? Was it as easy as you thought it was? Have you ever looked into it before? And what do you like about it? Do you ever want to go into space? Basically skeeting into space with a giant weenie. Anyway, like and subscribe and follow this, or share this video, and buy my book Quintessence on Amazon. Goodbye, Earthlings.